As part of inspecting all the parts out of the Cutlass engine, I'm going through and changing out all of the roller bearings on the rocker arms, simply because some of them were a little bit stiff, and there's no point in putting that stuff back in the engine, which I'm very glad I decided to do so far, because I have two damaged shafts where it was starting to tear up on both of these shafts. And that was definitely not something that happened during engine failure. So that's been going on for a little while. And I'm gonna have to cross the bridge or see if I can find replacement parts for that, because these rocker arms I originally bought, like, shoot, I don't know, 12 years ago, because they were getting discontinued back then, and they was able to buy multiple sets for like $100 a set. And we ended up using several of those sets in builds, and I only kept the one set for myself. So we're just needing to kind of work our way through this. I can't imagine it's a too terribly specialized piece, because why would you, as a rocker arm company, design every single rocker arm application with a different trunnion? So hopefully we'll be able to track down something either old stock or current from maybe a different brand even, and be able to replace those two parts. Or we'll be trying to find two other brand rocker arms. So the rebuild process starts with pulling the snap rings off. And then we're over here to the arbor press. I made this plate just to be something to support it and center it, and my original hole was off a little bit, so I cut that straighter in the lathe, and then I had to make a bushing to get the size down to somewhere where we can work with it. So now with the rocker arm supported, I got my piece to driver to sit. It locates like just a little bit of space on the pivot shaft. That way everything kind of lines up, and as long as I got it eyeballed center on my bushing, we're in good shape. And some of them are quite stiff coming out, but we're able to then take all our parts out. The parts being simply two bearings and the shaft. Oh, we can ditch the bearings because I don't even want a chance reusing any of those, and give the shaft an inspection. That one looks good. So far it's just those two that are bad. I'm wondering if I can suspect that these two that are bad are from when the intake valve broke, what, 2 years ago now? It might have damaged those two, and they've just been getting by for that long, but I don't know. We got two that are damaged anyway. That would, narrow it down to possibly being a single cylinder, but I didn't keep track of which ones came from where, so I can't even begin to narrow that down beyond just guessing. So I'm gonna get through the rest of these, and whatever looks good, we got a new batch of bearings we can throw on them, and then I'll have to try to track down some pivots, like I said. For reassembly, I've got one additional part here, just so that we can line up everything, and I can reuse one of my disassembly tools. So I'm just gonna start with pressing the first bearing in, drop the trunnion in, it centers on that piece, set the next bearing on top, push it in, use our disassembly tool, push it in the rest of the way. Put our snap rings back on, and then we're done replacing the bearings on these rocker arms. Not too bad. Getting a little bit of an early start this morning. Get my new modified dry flanges put on. I'll show you what I did with those. So I needed to do my typical modification to get the outside hub cut down enough for the wheel to clear.
And that's just because these are set up for a dirt track, so they come with a larger center on them, and because they were cut out for being lightweight on the back, I had to weld that up and then machine it. But the big thing is I'm moving to these taper screws from the smaller regular just cap head ones, because I'm pretty sure that the way that this thing is designed to work is that the height that we ended up cutting away to make this flat again is supposed to match the main hub, so that the wheel actually holds tension on it, or supports it, kind of a thing. Versus with these older screws, if they came even a little bit loose, then that thing would jar in there, and then that was leading to my failures that I was having, where it just would jar around enough that it would eventually take out the splines on the axle. But what I realized a couple months ago is that this whole thing was banging back and forth, that it became loose in the actual hub. So by going to these taper head screws, we're going to be able to hold it from oscillating back and forth, again, as long as they stay tight. But I've got these counter sinks cut where these heads should be flush to the wheel also, so it'll kind of lock and hold it in place, sort of a thing. And then it just anywhere where I've got a significant gap in here, I can kind of take some shim material and put in there. Although now that everything's going to be lined up with the center of the bolts again, I probably won't be able to do that, not unless I use some really thin shim material. But I know on one of the one side or both sides, I was getting a 1/16 thick piece of metal jammed in there for an event, just to take a bunch of the slop out, which it did. So that's kind of what led me down to, oh, okay, everything's moving around too much, so we're making this change in the modifications to keep some slop out of the drivetrain. And really overall, like, this failure that I've been having with these that's on me. I modified these things from what they were intended to be, but they're also designed to be a wear item where the metal is actually fairly soft, and that's because it's a lot easier to replace that drive flange than having to, like if you took out the axle instead. So I've had the same axles in this car since I put this rear end in, so that's probably been 3 or 4 years now. It's the same axles. Nothing's ever gone wrong with the axles. It's just the drive flange being taken out. And this is just kind of a last attempt on those and making them work before I just go to a actual more standardized drive flange. This rear end really wasn't designed with these in mind, but they work just fine. The big thing is it ends up spacing the wheel out a little bit. And again, they're set up for a certain size counter bore in the hub, which does not match, so I'll have to modify these anyway. Also, the difference being is that these are a little more hardened right off the bat, and if they do go out, it's just a quick swap it out kind of thing. And then I've also got one that's a spare already that we've modified, that's kind of like my safety when one of these regular ones blows out, that I can put it on and the car will still drive, and I've braced with it like that before too. So I know that these will be fine if we get to that point. So at some point I'll just modify both of these for backups, and if this doesn't work out to be a long-term fix, then we'll switch it over. Oh, update on the Cutlass here now. It is December. I was hoping to be reassembling the engine before now. Just got the block back from the machine shop today, repaired. So when we had our oil pump belt failure, it took out number 2, 3, and 4 for the camshaft bearing journals. 1 and 5 were actually still okay, so we ended up machining a spacer. Well, I ended up machining a spacer
that could then go into an enlarged bore on the block so that we could be line bored again and put our regular bearing back in. So now that's done. With a cam put in, spins super free, everything's kosher there. But while the crankshaft was getting polished, my machinist guy noticed that it didn't look quite right in one of the corners, and he went and magnafluxed it, and the crank was cracked. And I imagine it's been cracked for a while, based on how it was propagating out away from the radius in the corner. And a ways back, when that crank was originally done, I was trying to keep it standard, and it got welded on, and I don't think that welding job was done properly because it was cracking out of the well area, which sucks because now I need a new crankshaft, and I already pulled one out of a spare block I had sitting here. That should be off to Shaft Tech in Ohio in the next couple of days. And this time around, I'm going to have somebody actually trust doing the crankshaft work, which is Shaft Tech. And while it's there, I know they have the stuff to do it. We're going to get it ion plasma nitrided, which is going to be a big increase in the rigidity, stiffness of the crankshaft itself, and just, you know, making sure that it's a virgin crank where there's going to be no welds on it. We're hopefully going to be for sure done and fixed as far as that's concerned. But now I'm stuck in a holding pattern of waiting at least another month before I got a crank again. Other work that I've done in the meantime is fresh brake rotors and pads all the way around on the car. I've switched out the pads I've been running to pads that are probably going to be better for like an autocross setup. In this case, I'm doing the Hawk 5.0s, I think they're called. And it's just it's still a high torque pad, but it works, you know, better at a cold temperature kind of a thing. So hopefully I won't have to, you know, do autocross runs like up at Brainerd or even Black River Motorsports Park where I gotta like drag the brake a little bit to get the pads up to temp to work right. So hopefully that'll be good going into next year. The big reason for that is I'm kind of probably retiring this car from big track events for the most part, just because they're getting too expensive and too far away to run some grid life stuff. And I mean, other than a couple of events where, you know, up at Brainerd kind of a thing where, you know, when we run there and do some competition laps, it's usually like the standing start. So we're only doing, you know, maybe 3 hot laps at a time, and they're not consecutive. They're like there's a small cool down in between kind of a thing. That'd be the only real concern I'd have about the pads not holding up. Otherwise, it's mostly going to be autocross stuff for this thing going forward. So maybe we'll do autocross week again. I don't know. We'll see. But I also changed out the master cylinder here. So this is now a 1-inch bore master cylinder. Changed that out from the 1 1/8 I've been running. What the idea here is hopefully I'll have more pedal modulation because I'll be moving a little bit less fluid, which means the pedal travel should be a little bit longer, and it'll help modulate the brakes as far as doing trail braking into corners, that kind of stuff. So really just overall looking to improve the brake package for next year as well. I've also gone through my steering system again. I believe I covered it in one of the previous videos about tightening up the steering shaft up top and then cutting away the offset that I had to the rear here. And I may be giving up a little bit of Ackerman with the steering, but I'm able to put a boot back on here and keep the dust out. So that's more of a longevity street driving wise, just to kind of, you know, refine the package here and make it better. The only other real change that I have planned is I do have a little bit softer front sway bar to put in. just to keep from a little bit of, inside wheel lockup when braking and turning. And again, improving performance at an autocross level, because that's not an issue on a road course, but it is in some tighter autocross situations. And that's about all I've really got planned for this car. It sucks here sitting and waiting for engine parts for a couple of months, only to find out that a different part that you weren't even worried about from the get-go, it was an issue, and now it's going to be another couple of months kind of a thing, which is just, I don't know, it is what it is at this point. I really would have loved to have this car put away for the winter by now, but instead it's torn apart and all over the garage, taking up space. It's just how it goes sometimes. But otherwise, still plugging away on the tube chassis. It's just everything slowed down a little bit. We're getting into the holiday seasons kind of thing, so that's taking up a bunch of time. I'm also struggling with a little bit of motivation on some of that stuff. It's tough. When I got like 5 or 6 things like planned out, and I just don't have the motivation to actually complete the task kind of thing right now. Hopefully it's getting a little bit better this weekend. I did get a little bit of work done today. Hopefully I'll get some more done tomorrow and just kind of push through those things till I can find the next thing that's really gonna like excite me to keep working on it. Otherwise, I collected some more parts for the F-250. I've got a different dash gauge cluster now to go with that, because to get the overdrive transmission I'm planning, Ford didn't put a speed sensor in the transmissions in those years. They were run off the rear end, so now I need a different speed sensor, which the easiest thing seems to go to like a GPS. Well, now it's a digital signal, so it's not running the cable for the original stock dash, so I need a digital one or a converter box. And for what a converter box costs, I only paid $200 more for the dash, and it'll probably be another $200 or 2 something for a GPS speedo, and it seems like the better option at this point. So now I've got another little collection of parts going for that truck, but that's outside. It's cold outside. I'm not working on that thing till springtime. Hopefully we get a warm, February, March time, and I can get a lot more of that. Or I get this thing parts by January so I can push this outside and maybe I can work on the truck, but it's where we're at.